and welcome to another episode of Gas It Out. My name is Gavin Emmett, and joining me from Paradise Island on the Isle of Man is Neil Hodgson. It actually looks beautiful where Neil Hodgson is. I've got this beautiful big shot of him in his front room over there on the Isle of Man, and where it's absolutely chucking it down here in Leeds. It looks like it's sunny there, which I cannot believe for starters. You can, if you are just listening to this on the audio podcast, you can come and watch this on YouTube or on Facebook. Just search for Gas It Out. We're seeing a beautiful shot over the sea there. That's
Douglas Bay, that Gavin Emmett.
Not a bad view, Neil Hodgson, I have to say.
No, it's lovely. There is not a better place in the world when the sun shines than the Isle of Man, and it's one of those days. A little bit grey this morning, but stunning now. And I'm in Onken, up on the cliff edge overlooking Douglas Bay, and it doesn't get much better than this, got to say.
I just want to quickly mention a couple of things that I had to mention before we crack on. We've got John Hopkins as a guest. I mean, that's exciting enough because he has tail upon tail upon tail upon tail. We do have, you might be able to see on my shoulder, some Triumph goodies to give away. Right, I want to say it early on. We've got some Triumph goodies today, and what it's going to be is later on in this program, we're going to come up with a hashtag. That's all it's going to be. And what we want you to do is retweet this show, whether it's the podcast version or the YouTube version, just retweet it and put the hashtag in. That's all we want. But it's not going to come up until later on in the show. All right? How's that? And we'll send out some Triumph goodies to the winners. We'll pick them random out of a hat or maybe out of one of Neil Hodgson's helmets. They're very, very big. Especially, he's had to have them specially made, actually, after last week in MotoGP, where he called the last lap. Ooh, I'm Mr. Clever, eh?
Hey, Gav, I've been commentating now. I think I'm in my third year. It's about time I called one perfect, isn't it? You know, but it was interesting, wasn't it? Certainly a major talking point. You know, Paul Espargaro about to win his first MotoGP race, leading on the penultimate lap. He'd got a gap of 0.3 of a second. But the talking point was, as he came out the last corner, his team put on his pit board +0. The problem is, from a rider's standpoint, and I've been in that situation before, if you see +0 on your board and it's a last lap of a race, you know you've got to go defensive. Now, if you ride defensive, you can't go as fast as if you ride on the normal flowing racing line. It'll probably cost you about half a second. So the fact that he went defensive, and the nature of Austria anyway is a track, it's got those long straights with heavy braking zones, means that going defensive is definitely going to cost you a lot of time, and it did. And as it turned out, I was bloody right, Gav. Who'd have thought it?
Once in, what is it?
Yeah,
7
once
years?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. Do you know what, I've got two commentary bits. Like if I ever had to do a
CV
clip up, yeah, like a CV, like, you know, I'd have the one where Marquez crashed at Valencia on. I think it's turn 4. I sort of predicted it. I'm going, oh, it's really cold conditions. This is on this track. If you attack, the problem is when you get to the first left-hander, it's really cold. Just watch this now as Marcus approaches it. Watch it. If he's going to crash, he'll crash here. And he did. And it was like, oh, that's still my favourite comment.
You know what?
The thing
moment. For me, it's like you know what you're on about, right? And everyone at home thinks that he knows what he's on about, whereas I know you're just winging it.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Yeah. There's, I mean, percentage-wise, I'd probably say it's 90% bullshit and 10% experience, knowledge, you know, been there, done that.
I think
so. Just the 90%.
I just think that they've been there, done that might have counted for something, to be honest.
I'll take the 90% bullshit, but imagine this, Gav. You are 100% bullshit, which I love.
Yeah, I mean, I've made a career out of it.
Made a career out of it.
Hey, I just think, you know, I spoke to Paul Espargaro after the race, and I don't think he realised. I think when he'll watch it back, he'll see, won't he? Because even in Parc Fermé, he'll have just thought, well, they're on my shoulder, that sort of thing. But he got asked by every TV station about it, didn't he? And I think we might see a different Paul or different reaction to the race when you speak to him next time. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, and that's why I said what I said, because in my experience, when that had happened to me, I'd watched races back on television and said to my team, from now on, I want the exact what the gap is, not what your interpretation is, not what you think I might want to see. Oh, do you know what? It's the last lap. You might want to see +0. because it's only a 0.3 gap and it's the last lap. So let's, make sure he keeps him on his toes. No, you don't want that. What you want is the truth, and then you can calculate how you're going to, handle it, deal with that situation. That's how I saw it anyway. So funny. Got to laugh, haven't you, Gav?
Well, it was,
it was so interesting, wasn't it? What?
I mean, we are having the most interesting year, aren't we, for a while? Look, we think, in fact, the stats were before the week that we've had the closest races. I think 9 out of the 10 closest races, top 15 wise, have been in the last 3 or 4 years. So it's a fact that MotoGP is closer than ever. But all these things thrown into the mix, like Mark being injured. You think that's the big headline story? No, I'm going to give you Yamaha engine failures. No, I'm going to give you crashes of like to Rince and Crusher, who also injured themselves. Oh, Fabio Quartararo is going to win back-to-back races. Oh, and then Brad Binder on a KTM, he's going to win as a rookie. And you just get story after story. And, oh, no, 2 satellite bikes are going to win races this year. What? Yeah, and one of them's a KTM satellite bike. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, well, in the team's championship, the number 1 team over the past God knows how many years will actually be sitting last. Repsol Honda, that team in the team championship is last. It's the worst team in the MotoGP paddock.
Bizarre.
It's there's so many stories.
Hey, and obviously we've had Brad Binder and Hervé Poncharal on here, where both we had Frankie Morbidelli's been on the podium, and
best result he's ever had. Just saying.
I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. Jake Dixon just got his best result in Grand Prix racing. It was episode 1. Boom.
Exactly.
Boom.
John McPhee having the best season he's ever had.
Drop that one.
Drop the mic. It's all down to us, really. So basically, if there'd
have been a TT this year, McGuinness would have won.
Yeah, clearly.
Guy Martin would have also won.
Yeah, but basically, if you want to be big time, get yourself on, gas it out.
I've got to just do a quick one before we speak to John to say thanks to Clampy, actually, for his chili sauce. I've had some hot sauce, good. Sent it to us to say thank you, so we appreciate that. Thanks to Clampy for that one. For
hey, do you know what? It does what it says on the tin. It's bloody hot sauce.
It's good though, but it's like the sort of stuff that you get in the Caribbean, isn't it? It's like fresher, that sort of thing. So yeah. Cheers to Clampy for that. Also, I've been doing a 2 Wheels for Life takeover. I want to say that as well, with lots of American stars, and you can go and watch all those back on Instagram. I just want to say it because some really good stuff in there. And Joe Roberts is the coolest kid, bar none, in the whole of MotoGP. I don't care. Whatever you tell me is not going to beat Joe Roberts being, honestly, he should be wearing like those like cool glasses and just going, He was, I chatted to him. So in between races, him and Edgar Pons. And Edgar Pons is quite, they've gone off to northern Spain and they're off surfing. Just that's what they're doing. Downtime, surfing for the week. So
he is, though, the Ben Bostrom of now, the Ben Bostrom back in the day. So in the late 90s, early 2000s, you've got Ben Bostrom there, the Californian, good-looking surfer, climber, motocrosser. And do you know what? Enjoyed his racing, didn't take it too serious where he was obsessed, but was professional, but just enjoyed life.
Talking of Californian good-looking roosters in Joe Roberts, we've got his mentor now who's just connecting to the audio. We have Hopper himself, John Hopkins, joining us. Can you hear us okay, Hopper? How you doing, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. I finally got you there. I'm a little bit behind the times with the electronics. So I don't have Zoom. I had to download it on my phone here.
Sorry about that.
I'm actually at my buddy's house, so I was going to use his computer, and then I don't know how it works. So I finally just downloaded it on my phone here, set it all up. But yeah, I got you guys. Can hear you now.
Oh, that's good.
Well,
hey, John, it's good. It's good to see you, because last time I saw you was when we interviewed you on the grid in Austria, and I laughed. I don't know. You won't have heard my commentary. That it was actually the round.
It was this weekend, wasn't it?
Yeah, this weekend. Yeah. I went. Everybody we've spoke to so far you know, they've got a mask on. We understand the rules.
Yeah, the mask,
but,
the
hang on,
glasses.
yeah, but you looked like you were a fugitive. I tell you, right? Because you got your hat pulled down. You've got big glasses on and a mask. I'm like, hang on a minute. Is he one of like on Most Wanted or something?
Yeah,
I didn't know if it really was John Hopkins. I'm not sure it was. You know what I mean? It's one of the people, like a body double.
Yeah, I was about ready to rob one of the guys from the for their bike, take it right off the grid.
It made me laugh.
Funny, man. Like, honestly, I don't know what's going on with society. Like, oh, it's going to be, you know, if you had a guy walking into a shop with all, you know, with the crazy face masks and so forth, you know, less than a year ago, you would have been like, what the hell is this guy doing in here? And then, you know, now it's
the norm.
I know, man. It's just the norm. Yeah, it's nuts.
It's such a bizarre world.
Can I just say, John, though, that interview on the grid, what you said, those words explaining of, you know, what you're doing with Joe Roberts and basically the approach for this year, you know, your input was just absolutely perfect. You know, realistic goals, not putting too much pressure on yourself, trying to have fun. And it's so difficult, isn't it, when you get into Grand Prix racing and you can get lost really quickly. You can start to doubt yourself. You can put yourself under way too much pressure where it's got to be the next race. I've got to show everybody what I can do. And before you know it, you've worked your way down the spiral and it's not much fun, is it?
No, not at all. And I mean, there is so many times where you can literally just chase your tail. And, you know, when you start chasing your tail, it is a downward spiral. And, yeah, the unfortunate thing is, you know, got a lot of the guys, especially when you get coming over from America, where unfortunately the level is a lot lower, you know, than what it is over here in Europe at the moment, you know, and when you come over with these unrealistic expectations, you know, like so many have just in the last decade, you know, that come over, you know, expecting to, you know, go out and, you know, they have that American, you know, pride and, you know, they want to go and put the American flag on the top of the podium. But yeah, unfortunately, if you come into it with unrealistic expectations, you know, you're in for a rough ride, you know, and that's how it's been, unfortunately, for Joe over the last couple of years. You know, he struggled with the bike, you know, with the setting. He was, you know, had a hard time on the KTM chassis. It didn't really suit his riding style. I mean, a lot of people, I mean, besides, you know, Lecuona, he did a really good job on the KTM. He managed to make it work. He's one of those riders that, you know, can adapt on some of the poor machinery. But, you know, he had a teammate that was going out and, you know, consistently being ahead of him. And I know how frustrating that can be. You know, the first person you want to beat is your teammate. And, you know, if you're going and getting outshined by your teammate, you're not able to find, you know, a good setting and get the thing to work how you want it and get the results you want. It literally can just destroy you mentally, you know, because after putting your life into something, I mean, and that's what he's done. You know, he's put his life into this sport and he has the goals and the dreams of, you know, being a MotoGP, you know, champion contender. And, you know, to be stuck and just literally at a, you know, a point scoring finish is like a good result. And that is just, it's so frustrating as a racer when you want to succeed and get to the front, but you've just literally got to take minor steps and you just got to reach those realistic goals. And, you know, once you do, that's when you start making progress and start climbing the ladder and making the progress forward. Because otherwise it can be a rough road if you're constantly let down and have these unrealistic, like you said, expectations.
Yeah.
How hard is it for you to do that, John? Because, you know, you were forced to stop racing, really. You wanted to continue, but you took so many beatings, or your body, you've been through so many operations. So to switch into that mode of mentoring a young kid who we all know's got bagfuls of talent, but then trying to mold that, how hard is that to make that transition, knowing that, you know, deep down, I wish I was, you know, in some ways, I feel like I could have still been doing this kind of thing.
Yeah, it was tough, man. It was, it's been a rough couple years, unfortunately, for me, just trying to find out what the hell I was going to do life after racing, you know. It was a shock. You know, I didn't have the the pleasure of just being able to bow out on my own and, you know, say it was time. You know, I had every intention of continuing, you know, whether it was, you know, British Superbike or, you know, going back to America racing some more, or even trying to make it back into World Superbike, you know, and even farther. You know, I still had those dreams and aspirations, and I still, you know, felt firmly within my head mentally that I could do it. And yeah, unfortunately, physically, I just couldn't. I literally couldn't. I mean, not only the fact that my knee doesn't bend properly enough to be able to fit onto the bike, the fact that after this last injury, I mean, I was in the hospital in London for just over 6 weeks. Literally, the only movement I had was being able to lift myself, you know, with my arms on and off a bedpan. You know, I had the nurses having to, you know, wipe my backside and, you know, everything. I mean, it was, and I'm a private person, you know, I was about to,
hang on. I was just about to say, so it wasn't all bad then.
Yeah, exactly.
I paid good money for that. But, you know, that's another story.
Yeah,
you know.
I guess, you know, a couple of them nurses were quite cute. So yeah. At least my wife was happy because it wasn't her having to nurse me down like normal, because she's done all the other injuries. But no, it was tough. I mean, it's, you know, and, you know, being from America, you know, you literally have an ensuite, you know, in America. When you're in the hospital, you have this massive, you know, plasma TV, your own room, and, you know, you're fully customed out, you know, given you have insurance. But, you know, NHS, it was, I literally had a curtain around me within a room of about 10 people screaming through the night and just, you know, craziness, and 6 weeks of that. But the toughest thing was having my kids come and visit me. And, you know, I've always been a really active father, you know, with playing with them nonstop, running around. And, you know, luckily I've been fortunate not to have a normal job where I'm away 9 to 5 every day, you know, besides training hours. So I would just be playing with them nonstop. And that's what they knew. That was the norm. Me running around, jumping around, playing with them nonstop. And so with them coming into the hospital and seeing me laid up and not understanding, you know, just wanting to play and get up and, you know, have daddy be, you know, the normal playful daddy was tough, because they didn't understand it. And that's when I really kind of looked at my kind of future from that point. You know, I was going on 36, 37 operations already. Wow. And I was just like, man, this is it. Like, I just can't keep doing this to my body anymore. Like I am, you know, I suffer from it already and have done for the last, you know, 5 to 10 years. I mean, I wake up and, you know, on a cold day and I am like, I'm in so much pain, like crazy. And I mean, I have to keep moving constantly to stop from stiffening up. And I mean, you know, and I'm only going to get older, so I know it's only going to get worse. But
what have you broken, John? Just like from your feet to your head, just talk us through your career from schoolboy motocross up to today, what you've broken, just so people can appreciate it.
Like 10 to 20 breaks within my ankles and feet. You know, from the metacarpals and the all the ankle joints, like a good 10 to 20 breaks all throughout my ankles. You know, I did a lot in motocross when I was a young kid, you know, casing things and coming up short, and, you know, different leg injuries. I broke both my legs, tibia and fibia, knees going upward, you know, loads of ligament tears, damaged joints. You know, I shattered both the entire joints, and my last injury in 2017. So ligament and bone damage in the knee joints. Going up, femurs, broken femurs, shattered hips, completely shattered pelvis.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, 6.
Go on, carry on.
Yeah, 6 vertebrae in my back. No, more than that, actually, because I've done upper and lower vertebrae. So like 8 vertebrae in my back, you know, shoulders completely, both collarbones broken, shoulders torn out, dislocated. And then the biggest one for luckily I didn't do any humerus on so the main bicep bone. I knock on wood, haven't done either one of those. So I think those are the only two bones I haven't broken.
There's still time though. There's still time.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
I know. So I've got, both forearms and wrists, and my wrist one was quite bad, severed tendons, and that needed a wrist replacement, because that was actually from 2007. We had a hell of a year. I've obviously been developing the Suzuki for however many years, 5+ years, from being an awesome result for the team was getting into the top 15, which was like, a great result for us at the time, to, getting the bike up to as competitive it was in 2007. I'd finished all the preseason tests. Like, I was on fire. I think we finished at pretty much every one of the preseason tests in first going into 07. Malaysia, I was first. Spain, I was first. We went into Qatar, and I was quickest in Qatar. And then on the final day, I was on a quick lap. And even though it was testing, I didn't want to abort the lap, but I was coming up on Sylvain Gintoli, who was quite a bit slower at the time. Anyways, he ended up, it wasn't his fault, but I tried to go up underneath him in the very fast right-handers, the Qatar. Went up on the inside of him, and he just completely chopped my front end, and I ended up having a over-the-top high side at like I don't know, I think it was like 120, 30 mile an hour in those fast left right-handers, yeah. Anyways, ended up breaking my scaphoid and severing a tendon, which was 2 weeks before the start of the season, after finishing first. And I was going into that year, I literally was putting every ounce of my energy, whether it was sleep. I was doing everything I was told to do. And I went into that wanting to win the championship, and then that happened. And not only that, Nikki, who I had great respect for winning the championship, was my rival at the time, who had just won the championship the year before. So I was like, that as a racer drove me to wanting to win the championship even more. So anyways, that happened 2 weeks before the start of the season. And I went back to California to see my surgeon in between. And he just said, look, it's a bad break. It's a scaphoid. You literally have two options. You can try and ride through the pain. It's going to get worse, but you might be able to ride through it, and your body might, adapt, or you're going to be out for, at least 3 months, because the tendon, they would have had to pin the tendon back, and it would have had to stay still for at least a good 3 months. So I just said, no, there's no way I'm sitting out this season. And so I ended up racing the whole year with the broken wrist. And so it took a few races to adapt. I still finished fourth in Qatar in the first round. And then was on the podium, I don't know, a couple races in China. But it got progressively worse, really bad over the next couple of years. And then I had no movement with it in 2010. And that's when I went to every surgeon I could find, literally all around Spain, Italy, UK, Australia, everywhere, until we found a surgeon in the US. Every one of them said that was it. I had to have my wrist fused and it was done. And then we found a surgeon in my home state, in my hometown in San Diego, who was a professional football doctor for one of the main professional American football teams, who was just doing a procedure that was, completely state of the art and so forth, that he had just performed on an American quarterback, in the football. And anyways, he ended up saying he thought he could transform my wrist and get the movement back. And he did. It was amazing, most amazing surgery. And I pretty much have full movement in my wrist again, which was my throttle and braking hand as well. And then ended up hit that doctor, because Nikki Hayden ended up having similar wrist issues from similar injury in 2013, a few years after. and I referred him to the same doctor who did the same exact surgery on him and repaired his wrist as well, which was good. But yeah, it's motorcycle racing. I was actually just talking to Cal Crutchlow this last weekend, and you know, we were because he went out on the grid for the Moto2 race, and we were walking back down pit lane together, and I was like, "Oh, how you doing, man?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm struggling, man. It's you know, it's rough at the moment." And I was like, he's like, and then first thing he said is, "You know how it is." I was like, "Trust me, man, I do. I mean, you're always riding with something. Like when you're a professional racer, you're always riding with some injury, you know, whether it's a lingering issue from the past or, you know, a new one from before." And it wears you down, you know, having to ride with those injuries. But, you know, motorcycle racing, I wouldn't take it back, honestly. I wouldn't.
I was going to ask you that question, and not asking a stupid question, but you've gone through probably more surgeries than anyone I know, probably more breaks than anyone I know. You've had some horrendous injuries, like you've just explained. There aren't any regrets then? Is it like,
no,
well,
not at
no,
all.
just...
I've had an amazing life, and you know, it's taken me in, you know, some of the most amazing places in the world. And you know, I was fortunate enough to live through the heyday of racing, and so I was able to make some decent money at it. And you know, I made a living and got to do what I loved my entire life. And sure, I'm paying for it now, and I will do when I'm older. And everyone says, "Oh, you know, it's, you know, you're going to get old one day, and you know, you're going to regret it." But I'm in pain every morning when I wake up. But once I get moving, you know, the joints loosen up, everything starts, you know, getting back into a rhythm. So, you know, I just got to keep moving. And then, you know, like they say, body in motion stays in motion. You know, if I end up taking a day off and just, you know, laying around for a day, I'm literally like dying. So I've got to stay in motion. It keeps me active. And no, it's why I also spend the winters in California. So it's not too cold back there.
It's not a bad thing.
Exactly. I don't think any of us would complain about spending a winter over there when you're stuck and I'm in the middle of summer here in Leeds and it's absolutely chucking it down here.
Yeah, exactly.
So
no, I told my wife, like, that was the part of the deal. Like, you know, like, because she's really close with her family here in the UK, and you know, working, you know, a work schedule where she still gets to spend a lot of time living over here in the UK. And I said, you know, I'll work that out, you know, we'll work that out and I'll do that. But no, I'm winters in California are a must, like, like physically and mentally. But
and talking of staying physical and keeping moving, you were out in Austria last week on the Moto2 bike, weren't you? The team brought it out for you as a kind of little, you know, 20 years on for pretty much coming over to Europe in the first place, and you were out on the Moto2 bike with Joe. That was pretty cool, and you managed
looking
to
good.
Stick a wheelie, obviously.
Yeah, it was good. I was nervous though at first, you know, 'cause, they obviously, you know, they arranged the event, and it was quite a cool little thing.
Did you know it was happening?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was literally like only days before that it all got arranged. So luckily, you know, we had everything sent over gear-wise from that I had here in the UK, and then Alpine Stars, you know, they're still a really big supporter of mine, still, you know, support me a lot, and they did everything, got all the gear that I needed extra. And yeah, so it was a cool thing, man. It was good to get out on track. I'd obviously never ridden a Moto2 bike, but the fact that I only got 2 laps on the bike, and you know, they were expecting me to do a big stand-up wheelie down the front straight was I was a little bit nervous about that, because like I said, you know, I'd never ridden a Moto2 bike, never knew anything about the power band, you know, getting the thing up, just, you know, it's something, you know, all the bikes I've ever wheelied in the past, and I knew stand-up wheelies have always been my thing. And, you know, it was always on a bike that I'd spent hundreds and hundreds of laps riding and hundreds of miles riding. And you get to know a bike quite well after that much, you know, riding on it. So, you know, the fact that I'd never ridden a Moto2 bike, we only had one flying run down the front straightaway, and they expected a big stand-up wheelie. That run was a bit nerve-wracking, and I almost made a fool out of myself and backed out of it completely. And we came out of the last turn for the first lap, and Joe obviously got it up and started to stand it on the back tire, and I was like, all right, I've got to do this. And so I went to go for it. I was in third gear, came out of the last turn quite slow as it was, so I wasn't that high in the revs. So I went to go and get it up on the rear tire, gassed it like I normally would with the GP bike in the past, and the thing didn't do anything. It just sat there. I sat there yanking it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to look like an idiot here. And so I was like, all right. I had a split decision. I came to the crossroads, either look like an idiot trying to get this thing up on the rear tire and possibly crash doing it, or just go by flying, just go by and say screw it and get in the tuck and, to still look cool, just going through the revs. Anyways, I was like, I got to do it. And then just went for it and just literally gave it a handful of throttle and stood it up, and it was natural. Once I got it on the rear tire, it was good, and managed to piss Joe off in the process, because I ended up having a longer stand-up wheelie than his.
I saw it.
You
outwheeling Joe. That was so cool, man. I didn't know he'd only had 2 laps, so respect, because that is difficult.
So I had no idea about power band, balance point, or anything. And no, it was good though. I mean, it's just being on a GP bike, obviously spending that much time on him in the career, and that and having, like I said, the amount of testing, the amount of testing we had on the GP bikes back then. We used to do, thousands and thousands of laps.
Yeah, it was too much back then, wasn't it? As a factory rider, it was actually a bit stupid. The season would finish, and then you'd go to like a 4-day test somewhere. Then the week after, you do another 4-day test. And the weekend after, you do another 4-day test. The money that was being spent.
Testing nonstop. Yeah. You were 4-day test in Malaysia, 4-day test in Australia, then back to Spain for a 4-day test. And this is just after you've completed the season. And then you go home for, 3 or 4 weeks. And then January, you're straight into Malaysia again. Malaysia was my second home in Grand Prix back then. And so, going back to it, the amount of time that I'd spent, like I said, on the GP bikes, just getting on that rigid, GP style chassis, instantly felt like a home to me. It just felt so much more comfortable than I've ever felt on any Superbike in the past. It just really felt like a bike that I knew, and it really reminded me actually of the 800s, that we were racing obviously back in the Suzuki days and stuff. So it's it was a nice bike. They're nice smooth power band as well with the Triumph engine. It's got a really nice power band through it as well, which was cool. But no, it was awesome getting to ride. I'm looking forward to the end of the year where they're going to send one of those back to California, and I'm going to get some time on it, back in California, which would be fun, riding with some kids back there.
Oh, because you're doing the academy, aren't you, with the American racing team? And you said, actually, I think I saw an interview you did with MotoGP where you said, actually, you're doing all the mentoring and you're working with Joe, and you know that he's got talent, but actually even riding a bike for 2 laps just help you understand where he's at, or where the bike is at in some way, so that now when you're speaking to him about you see him out on track and you see the way he looks like on the bike, that it would just help you in your job of making sure that he's already had 2 poles and a podium this year, but that win's not going to be far away, is it?
No, definitely not. And the more experience I could have with the machine, and knowing it personally is always going to help and be more of a benefit. But it's it's definitely not far away. There's some improvements that Joe's got to work on himself, especially when we get to the more stop and go style tracks, like Austria going into it was a track he was really dreading, unfortunately. He's had struggles there in the past, and Jerez was just a one-off situation. Honestly, if COVID had never happened and Jerez went as normal, Jerez would have been a completely different race for the guy. you know, because he had a solid, you know, top 10 result there, and he was consistently doing good lap times in the test prior to going to Qatar. And, you know, Qatar is obviously a more fast-flowing circuit. You know, he got a good setup there, and, you know, everything kind of worked in his favor there. And it's a track that he's obviously really strong at and enjoyed. But, yeah, Jerez was just a disaster, unfortunately, you know, after COVID, because, you know, he had spent, however, you know, 5 months off of the bike, going to a track that, you know, he knew wasn't his strongest, yet is pretty much the strongest for and most ridden for a lot of the European kids that are all in the championship. And yeah, I think that kind of hurt his confidence. And going into it, I don't think he knew he probably didn't do as much as he should have and could have done. Not only that, he had a big crash on an R6 not long before he left to go over to Europe, damaging, you know, I think his wrist and that quite bad. And so his confidence wasn't at the highest. So, you know, unfortunately, Jerez was just a disaster. And, you know, he went into that with the preconceived notion that he had to achieve the same exact result that he had gotten in Qatar. And he had that expectation holding on top of him as well, which wasn't a good thing. So, you know, I think it was just a downward spiral. He couldn't get the setting right. He was struggling. And I mean, he was literally only off by, you know, a few tenths, but in a championship that tight and that competitive, it means the world. Like, I mean, that's the difference between, you know, a top 5 and, you know, a top 20 result.
That's hero or zero.
I did a chat with Joe earlier, and he said how it is the toughest championship in the world, and
I agree.
You guys have ridden in some tough places, but it is. I mean, 0.2 of a second covering top 14 to go through into qualifying, and you've got to have that done by Saturday morning.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's you know, these guys don't have a lot of testing, and I mean, it's a matter of going out, and you have basically Friday morning to go and get the bike into a good setting, you know. And the guys that are running the best and the most competitive are the guys that have a solid base setup straight from the beginning and just have to tweak the bike minorly here and there to get, you know, an adapt and, you know, get the thing going to whatever circuit they're at. But, you know, it's already starting qualifying procedures going into Friday afternoon, because they have to be in that top 14 to get into Q1 and, you know, or Q2 or whatever it is. So, yeah, I mean, they don't have a lot of time to set the bike up, and it's a matter of just going out and making it happen straight away, right in the beginning.
Hopper, I'm really intrigued. I want some stories off you, because you was a wilder man. All right.
Yeah.
Throughout your career, you worked hard, but you bloody played hard as well.
That's for damn sure.
Now, I know you've got a book coming out pretty soon, and I've already heard some stories that sound amazing. I'm so looking forward to that, by the way. But can you give us a couple of tasters, some of the behind the scenes, what you got up to? Is there anything you can tell us?
Is there anything you can tell us? What without the lawyers getting involved?
Yeah, exactly. No, well, I've had unfortunately quite a few legal issues, you know, away from the racetrack that I've, you know, had to deal with in the past. Obviously, you know, substance abuse between alcohol and, you know, unfortunately painkillers and you know, really strong painkillers. You know, yeah. So I mean,
sorry, John. If you're happy to talk about it, for most British people, we don't really understand too well the getting addicted to painkillers and stuff like that. It seems more of an American thing that happens because probably the strength of the tablets that you can get over there in the US compared to what we get. I mean, I don't know anyone who's like addicted to Anodin or, you know, paracetamol, but
no, I mean, we're talking like strong painkillers, and I mean, you know, stuff that, and it's, you know, something, and an addiction, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, but it's, you know, we're talking, they're painkillers that are, you know, 20, 30 times stronger than heroin, you know, and that's what it is. It's opiate based painkillers that, you know, and it's something, you know, I never initially ever took to go and just get high and, you know, take to get high. But, you know, the amount of time that I had taken them over throughout my career, to just either heal from an injury, and I would take them so that I could train harder, and I could fight through the pain, you know, and it was easier to get myself back to a level of competing at, you know, at the highest level in the world by using them. And, you know, sometimes I had to get through them in that regard. But yeah, it was funny, like alcohol, like everything. You know, up until around 2007, alcohol was always, and I mean, I never drank like 1 or 2 beers ever. I mean, I was like, it's like everything I've done in my life. I am like full throttle or nothing at all. Like I was either completely dry and would just stay away from alcohol, or I would go fucking flat out. Like, I mean, just full throttle. And I would get wasted anywhere and anytime. Normally every Sunday night after every race weekend, I'd get hammered, whether I was, you know, drowning the sorrows of a bad weekend or celebrating a great weekend. I'd just get pissed up and do stupid shit. I mean, the Paddock was a fun place, though. I mean, especially with, you know, the likes of Colin Edwards and, you know, all the other, you know, crazy people back then. You know, it was a fun paddock to be in. And, you know, there was normally a lot of parties within the paddock and getting up to some funny, stupid things in the paddocks. And yeah, it's
whatever happened with Max Biaggi was with Max Biaggi's car. Who was involved?
Yeah, see, I got blamed for that.
It was Curtis, wasn't it?
For that. Max Biaggi's car, his little, you know,
smart car, wasn't it?
Like, oh, he had it all done up as well. With it looked just like his helmet. And
number 3 on the side.
And
I remember
it was a little cheesy. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. And
so what happened? What happened to this car? I don't know this story.
So anyway, see, I had pulled a girl that night. So I was in my fucking motorhome, getting lucky all evening. So I wasn't even like, so what? Hang on.
So what did you do after the first minute? Come on. Go on.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think it was a Rizla girl at the time, which was, I think it was in Mugello. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So I was, you know, having a not a quiet night in, but a more relaxed, well, not even relaxed, I guess, but I was having a night in my motorhome, let's say. And, you know, the party obviously, you know, was going on in Mugello between Curtis, Roberts, and all those guys, and Colin Edwards. And anyways, Kenny was there for a little bit, Junior. And, you know, Curtis Roberts got completely hammered. He ended up stealing a cop's bike that was there, like took the cop's bike literally and took it for a lap around the track on the Sunday evening. You know, the cop obviously being a big fan of MotoGP, you know, he was quite pissed when he found his bike was gone initially. But then when Curtis came rolling back up on it, you know, he was actually all right about it. And, you know, he didn't do anything. But it started getting crazier from there. And everyone was just kind of, you know, being a bit wild. And anyways, we wake up and someone came knocking on my door on the motorhome that night. And they're like, man, you got to come see this. You got to come look. I go outside and Max Biaggi's smart car is literally on its roof. And they're sat there spinning on its roof, like scratching the hell out of the paint because it's on its roof and just spinning it like back and forth. And I'm like, oh my God, you guys. And Ruben Joust was involved in it as well. I think he played a part in it. But, yeah, anyways, freaking we go into it was always a back-to-back where we went to Mugello straight into Catalunya right after. And instantly, the second I got into the paddock, into Barcelona, I think on the Wednesday or Thursday, I was called straight to the IRTA office and straight to the commission. Well, what have you done? And instantly I was blamed for all of it. Like, this was my fault. And, as if I'd solely done it. Because I was quite the troublemaker, obviously, within the paddock. And if stuff went wrong, I was normally the first to blame, and I'll be the first to admit it. But that instance, I wasn't. And they didn't believe it. They had no intention of believing it. And finally, I had to go to Colin. I said, Colin, man, you got to admit this. Like, I'm not going down for this. Like, I didn't do that. And anyways, they ended up speaking to him. And I'm not even sure if they ever did admit it, but that was one of the things. I mean,
what did Max say?
Oh, he was pissed about it. Obviously, he was emotional. But
did you get on with Max, John?
I you know what, I did. I was one of the only riders that did, actually. Like, I did. I still do. And I mean, I like Max. He was, he got a tough stick from, Rossi, obviously hating on him for all those years, and all the Rossi fans kind of immediately just turned on him for being a rival of Valentino. And he wasn't the best guy as far as marketing, and he did some silly things like, about the whole, what was it, the Claudia Schiffer thing that he rumored he was dating her, and
yeah,
and he'd done some silly stuff, but he was an all right guy. I mean, I get along with him now. He's a good guy, but he was actually one of the few. I'd always see him, and we weren't buddies or anything, but I always saw him at Anaheim in California. Always spoke to him, even when we were racing together. But he was a dickhead when I first came into Grand Prix. And it was funny. He was one of the ones I was told to watch out for, because he would, intentionally shove it up the inside and knock you off line and knock you off track when you're a newcomer. And he did that to me regularly. I mean, there was a few times he fucking T-boned me and knocked me off track coming by me. And that pissed me off a bit, but anyways, I'd probably have done the same.
He's definitely mellowed out, hasn't he, actually, as Max over the years. But yeah, John, I mean, those Grand Prix days, you came in, everyone seems to forget, you were young when you came in 2002. You were just 18. And
yeah, I just turned 18.
Yeah, and John Aldrich, it was, wasn't it, who helped with Peter Clifford and got you over in the first place, because you rode the 500s. People sort of seem to forget you bridged that cross.
Yeah, I was one of the few that
you were so young
got to race a 500 at 18 years old. Still still the youngest ever rider to compete a full season to race MotoGP in the first place in the Premier class and compete a full season, which, like, just now it sounds mind-boggling. Like, you just wouldn't see it now. Like, I literally raced 2 years of professional super sport racing in domestic championship straight into the Premier class, like 500 Grand Prix, which it was a big steep learning curve. But
I mean, Ika Lecuona's not far off now, and he's done 2 or 3 years in Moto2, because he came quite late, out of Supermoto or that sort of thing. But still, we're talking about 18, and you're chucked in a shark's pit.
Well, it's to go directly from a domestic championship where you've only done 2 years into what is MotoGP without doing a Moto2, Moto3.
Yeah, exactly. Or anything in World Superbike or World Supersport or anything like
on 2 strokes, on 500.
Yeah, on a two strokes
against the 990s as well.
Yeah, and this is a bike that, like, loads of proven, World Superbike stars that were competitive World Superbike riders struggled to get a grasp on.
I mean, Nori Haga, who you inherited it off, wasn't it? Yeah.
He's who I replaced, was Haga on the team. And so, it was a steep learning curve. But I mean, I luckily spent a lot of time just riding track days and club races purely on the bike. I mean, let's say I'd only raced 2 years on the 4 strokes. But prior to that, from 12 years old, I was on a 125 GP bike, an RS 125. unfortunately, I could only ride once a month, one day a month, every month at a track, Willow Springs in north of Los Angeles. And up until the age of 15, literally, that is the only track I ever rode a road race bike on, was Willow Springs. And then I did the Aprilia Cup Challenge in 1999 at 15. Ended up winning that, and then that was when I got the ride to ride for Ulrich, because he supplied the whole ride for me to do the Aprilia Cup Challenge, supplied the bike, everything, and then it was more of kind of a tryout for me to ride for his main team on the Suzuki in 750 Super Sport, which I won the championship next year, and then again in the Formula Extreme the following year. And then that's when like him and Peter Clifford came together, and Peter was like, oh, we're looking for a young American, we want to try and bring one over. And, Ulrich was good friends with Peter at the time and said, we think we got a guy, he's quite young, but I think he'd be all right. And that was it. I mean, I literally tested. I tested the 500 Grand Prix bike. I mean, I know I raced it at 18, but I actually tested it at Brno when I was 16. That first year in 16, there was a test after the Grand Prix weekend in Brno in 2000, and they sent me over, and I just thought it was like just a one-off like PR event, but I think they wanted to test how I was at that time. And I remember going there, and I was like up against, everyone was on 2-strokes 500s at that time. And I remember riding it and just thinking, like, what the hell am I doing out here? Because I was on track with a lot of the guys at the time. And I remember Tetsuya Harada, I think it was, came by me, and he was waving his arms everywhere because I was in his way. And, he was all pissed off. But, 2 years later, when I went there for the first full season, it was good. I had a lot of doubters, obviously. One of my biggest critics who I mean, he was no shortage in, talking about his doubt in me in the media and everything, was Matt Mladen at the time. I mean, he said I was going to be a joke and how pathetic it was going to be. And it was crazy. I had an option to basically race for any one of the Superbike teams in the Paddock in AMA for the following season. I had the choice. I could have went to, Kawasaki, Yamaha, Honda, all of them. I had an option to race for the Superbike teams, but the only team I wanted to ride for was Yoshimura Suzuki. And at the time, there was a team manager there at Yoshimura Suzuki. I think his name was Mal Harris. Yeah, it was Mal Harris. Big, disgusting guy. I hated him. Anyways, he hated me. He hated my tattoos. He hated my earrings. He hated my image. That was the only team that I had no option, even though I'd just won 2 Suzuki championships for Suzuki. That was the only Superbike ride that I didn't have an option for. And had Yoshimura Suzuki given me an option to race that following year, I would have stayed and raced Yoshimura Suzuki the following year. But because of that guy and him is disliking me and not liking my tattoos and my earrings and so forth, I just said, fuck you, and went and decided to go and make the jump. And that's when obviously Matt Mladen was extremely vocal, saying how pathetic I was going to do and I was going to be a joke. And so I had a lot of doubters and other people and a lot of people saying how bad I was going to do. But I think I proved them wrong. We had a pretty successful year. I mean, obviously it was 2 kind of different championships between 2-strokes and 4-strokes. I don't think they really understood how uncompetitive the 2-stroke was going to be versus the 4-stroke. But, there were some tracks where it was slightly competitive. And I mean, McWilliams had a hell of a race one at one place on
Phillip
it.
Island. Phillip Island,
yeah,
stuck it on
so.
pole.
Yeah, I
think was Gaz McCoy might have been up somewhere towards the front at the same time.
Yeah.
And Saxon Ring was another one where the Olivier Jacques and that. But you did during that year. I
Yeah,
remember.
but a couple times that year, I ended up being top two-stroke against, I mean, we're talking the likes of, Loris Capirossi, Alex Barrow, Shinya Nakano, proven race winners and, constant front-running podium finishers, and, being able to finish ahead of those guys and be top two-stroke on certain occasions was almost like a win to me that year. And it obviously got me the factory MotoGP Suzuki ride the following year, which was like the biggest fuck you to that Mel Harris at AMA. So that was one of the best feelings I've ever had in racing, was just being able to do that, and then to prove the naysayers wrong and Mladen. And it was funny, that following year, for my first ever MotoGP test on the Suzuki Grand Prix bike, Yoshimura Suzuki were over because they were testing in Malaysia, because Suzuki had rented the track. So they brought Yoshimura on board to use the testing time. And it was funny. So I was on track with Mladen and Spies at the time. Spies I was friends with. But Mladen, it was so good getting on track with him, being on the MotoGP bike and being able to shove it underneath him and pass him was just, it was like, that was fun. And given his current accusations, I don't feel so bad for hating him all these years. So, we'll see.
No, John, I think there's a long list of people on the hating Matt Mladen, and like you said, with what's happened recently, I think everyone's got a reason for that. He wasn't a nice person to race with, because obviously I raced with him out in America.
Yeah.
But he wasn't a nice person socially, was he?
No,
if
never.
you hung out with him, he was just a horrible human being, really.
No, it's just horrible and just
nasty.
Really mean. Just
mean.
Nasty,
yeah.
Just mean-hearted, and just, I mean, you get the ones that are the competitive, nasty, you get like, Doohan and those guys, they didn't make friends. They didn't, but it was because they had a competitive job and they just wanted to be the best. And, they decided that friends was going to maybe slow them down, and that, I can understand. And, that's the kind of, dedication it takes sometimes. But whereas Mladen, he was just he went out of his way to be mean to loads of people and to be horrible and just say horrible shit all the time. And and just not someone, I ever liked. I can't say I've ever respected him, but unfortunately, it's just, given those recent accusations, I don't feel so bad for hating him all those years.
Well, the lawyers are saying, let's just move on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We're not saying anything. We're just saying he's a dick. That's all.
That's right, exactly. That's what I said. But the lawyers are also just saying, let's move on. So
everyone's innocent until proven guilty, and I believe that as well. So we'll see.
I've got to ask though, John, about now. There's something we spoke earlier in a takeover for Two Wheels for Life, and I remember one thing you just said, and it struck me really, was how the feeling that you got seeing Joe on the podium, because someone asked asked you, what, can you recreate the feeling that you get from riding a 500, that kind of thing. But you said how sweet the feeling was just to be involved in this whole process of getting Joe Roberts, competitive at the top and helping out. But to see him standing on the podium, what kind of feeling that was for someone, who've had your ups and downs and everything and all these things that we've talked about already, that there is enjoyment still to be gained from it.
Yeah, no, there is, man, massively. And like I said, that satisfaction and that rewarding feeling I got from seeing Joe succeed and being, named by him as a big credit for that success and helping him reach that full potential was hugely rewarding. And it was something, I've done it, I was obviously, quite wild, and, I was, a big party guy and this and that. But one thing that I've always done my entire life was, try and help younger riders. And, I'd done it, all my life, and the one thing, literally, I mean, my dad was a lorry driver, and, you know, my mom, you know, when she wasn't raising 4 kids, she would, you know, hold on to a job just to be able to pay our rent, you know, and my family gave up everything for me, you know, to do my racing and travel the country. And there were so many times where we'd be traveling cross country and we were at races, you know, traveling, you know, we'd be on the other side of America, and my mom and dad would run out of gas money. They'd have to call family members to wire us money just so that we could make it home, you know, and my dad could get back to work on, you know, Monday morning. So, yeah, I mean, I know what it's like from that side. And, you know, I think that always, you know, gave me a little bit of drive, an extra drive, you know, coming from that background. And, you know, without the help of multiple people throughout my career, you know, from the beginning stage of my road racing career, you know, at the age of 9, there's no way my family could have ever had supported me to do road racing, you know, with the cost of, you know, Grand Prix bikes, the 125 GP bikes, and, you know, fees and everything. There's just no way I could have ever done road racing, you know, with my family salary at the time. So without the help of multiple people, there's no way I would have ever dreamed of being a professional road racer. And so, you know, being able to give back and, you know, do certain things, you know, throughout my entire career, you know, even but way back then, I was helping out young kids buying bikes and, you know, and supporting young riders. I was actually supporting a competitor of Joe back. It was a young kid who used to race against Joe. And it was funny. It recently came up. There's a picture of Joe. He's only like 9 or 10 years old. And I was in Grand Prix at the time, but I was at the track helping his rival. And Joe came up for a picture, and I took a picture with Joe. And it's quite a funny, you know, scenario. But yeah, that's what I was there for. Was I was helping one of Joe's rivals who, you know, he had some issues with some mental issues and some birth defects, but he was still a really good rider. And his dad, you know, didn't have a lot of money, and you know, I paid and helped him get his bikes and races and so forth. But anyways, yeah, so it's always been something that's been a passion of mine, being able to give back and help, and you know, being able to start this new academy over in the US to help kids, you know, that are in similar positions and, you know, may not have the means to be able to do it themselves, is a good thing. And, you know, the fact that I'm able to help hands-on with Joe and be able to offer, you know, immediate advice and offer some of that experience and knowledge. And, you know, unfortunately, I've learned all the what not to do's, and, you know, I had to go and learn it firsthand. You know, the things that worked and the things that obviously didn't work, but you know, it's still a hell of a lot of experience and knowledge. I've ridden every championship there is in the world, major championship, and every type of bike that you could imagine. So, you know, being able to pass on that experience, knowledge, and so forth from all over those years is it's something I really enjoy, and something I love doing. I mean, I like I said, the feeling I got from seeing Joe reach his full potential and seeing him after knowing all winter long that he had no shortage of talent and that there's no reason why he shouldn't be a front runner that year. Whereas, you know, he hadn't even been remotely in the top 10 prior to that for the first 2 seasons, you know, going into that, knowing that he could be a front runner and be able to achieve it. And like just the stuff we worked on all through the winter, dirt tracking, motocrossing, and everything. And then seeing it happen right then and there, right at the beginning of the season, was just amazing. It was really cool.
Yeah, it's great. It's great for us to see that. We need an American. We need it for the championship, don't we, Neil? We need, because it brings so much to the championship in terms of the characters we've had over the years. And John is just one of the characters we've had from the States. But you know, it's not an easy way to do things. When we've had Brad Binder on here, you know, coming from South Africa,
yeah,
you know, it's the same sort of thing. You're in a bear pit coming from another planet, effectively.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's how it is. And, you know, unfortunately, you literally have to sacrifice your life to do it. I mean, you have to abandon your family and friends, everyone you grew up with, you know, your so-called golden years. You know, in America, you know, you're taught from, you know, an early age that, you know, the best years of your life are, you know, when you watch movies and TV and everything, it's literally ingrained in you that, you know, the best years of your life are your high school football years and your college years, you know, your party crazy years.
Yeah, spring break, all that.
Spring break and all this. It's literally ingrained in you in America that those are the best years of your life. And you literally have to abandon that. Like, you know, you're not around for any of it. And you have to abandon all your friends, everyone you grew up with and everything. You know, you have to sacrifice that to be able to achieve your dream of racing in the World Championship in MotoGP. Because, you know, it's a lot different for, say, the Europeans. You know, a lot of these guys, you know, they're on an hour-and-a-half flight 70% of the year, and they're sleeping in their own bed on Sunday night around their family and all their friends and so forth. Whereas, you know, when you're American, when you leave in March, you know, in February or whenever, you're gone. You're gone until November. You don't see your family and friends until, you know, November time, until the end of the year. And, you know, it's a lot easier now. I mean, back then we didn't even have, you know, Skype wasn't even a thing. And so, we literally, I mean, luckily we had phones. Mobile phones. Yeah.
Just about
like these crazy international flip phones. And luckily I had a deal from a cell phone sponsorship at the time, Amp Mobile.
I remember them. Yeah, on the helmet.
So I got free phones so I could actually, because the rate to call back was insane. Like, I used to spend, I mean, literally like $30,000 a year in cell phone bills back to America. Like,
bloody hell.
Yeah, literally. Like, that's because it used to be so expensive back then. I used to spend between $20,000 and $30,000 a year in cell phone bills back to the US every year.
Yeah, but Gav's also had similar bills, but it's always them chat lines of them bills, you know. Do you want to know what I'm wearing? Do you want to know what I'm doing now?
Yeah, and I hate it when the chap hangs up on you on the other end.
Yeah, the babe station, man.
Yeah,
exactly.
Oh dear. Right, we better let you go, John. We've taken up far too much of your time, but we just fascinated listening to all the stories and that. And I know you have actually been keeping a diary, haven't you? Or you've written down a lot of your stories.
There's a book coming out, and I mean, trust me, I'm not holding out. I mean, there's a lot of stories, and especially from my most dysfunctional year, 2008. That's like everything will be revealed. You know,
I can't wait.
It's, you know, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff. And I mean, a lot of people think they know the stories, but fuck, they don't know the half of it.
Oh my God.
I mean, I know the half of it maybe, or not even that, maybe 10% of it, you know, but.
Yeah, but I mean, it was what you read in the media. I mean, a lot of it was true that was said, especially in 2008. Mazzano was a really bad. Oh, that was a bad time for me. Mazzano 2008 that was rough. But yeah, I ended up missing the entire Friday. But yeah, I ended up, you know, a couple years in really bad patches, and ended up going to rehab in 2009 into 2009 winter, and you know, never looked back since. So
good.
Which is good. Which
exactly.
We're all pleased for, because we all enjoy your personality, which has never changed, and who you are, and glad that you're able to now find joy or find happiness, you know, working with Joe and getting some success out there. And I think you're making a great team at the moment, and we're all pleased for you as well, you know, that it's
thank you.
for you, because we've heard now how, you know, tough you've had it, how many injuries you've had to go through, but also we know that you're a genuinely top man who just wants to be succcell. So
exactly.
We all wish you well, John. We certainly do.
It's great. And British public have always been you know, my biggest, you know, supporters and biggest fans, especially, you know, after racing in the, you know, British Superbike Championship for as many years. And Yeah, it's always they're the best race fans in the world, the British public. I mean, they you know, you gotta love them. So it's no, I love being here, and yeah, hopefully.
Apart from in winter.
Yeah, exactly. No,
Yeah.
that's just it, and that's but I just because I physically can't do it. I'd literally be in bed rest for the winter if I spent a winter here. And not only that, I mean, oh, it getting dark at like 3 p.m.
Yeah.
It feels like it's getting dark now, and it's only like 3:30 as well. So
I
yeah.
know, it's
John, we better let you go. Seriously, we've got to let you get on. We're taking up far too much of your time anyway. We appreciate it as always, and love chatting to you. You take care, and wish you all the very best. And we'll see you at a track hopefully soon when we get.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully, yeah, you guys will be there and live in part of the crew. So no, we'll look forward to seeing you guys, and thank you.
Appreciate that. Man. Cheers, John. Thanks for your time.
Cheers,
guys. John.
Take care, guys. Thank you.
Hey. You know what? You want to put your arm around John sometimes and just say, you have been through it, but still you've come out the other side, don't you, with John?
Yeah, he's still a relatively young man as well. He's 37 years old, but because everything happened so young, he's had this monster career, hasn't he? You know, done everything, like he said, racing every championship.
I like what he did with monster career.
Yeah, monster. Yeah, because he's always in back by then.
Well, no, actually, he was the original.
Well, actually, he was the original Red Bull because he started with Red Bull.
True.
If you think about it, when he was 17 on that the WCM.
Yeah.
You know, when he took Hager's ride, that was Red Bull. But then, straight after that, he was like, almost the first monster athlete, and he just fit the mold.
Yeah.
Because it was just wide open in everything he did. So, you know, partying, racing, personality, crashing. But what's not to like about him? I cannot wait for this book. I think it will be the best motorcycle autobiography I've read. And I've read some good ones over the years. I've read some crap ones.
I've just got shakies. I'm looking forward to that because I reckon there'll be a bit of a crossover in a couple of the stories because they were good pals back in the day. I remember one at testing in Barcelona, which I've got. I'm not going to try and give away anything in the book because I haven't got through it yet. So, I expect some crossover. But hey, look, Joe Roberts is already saying that he's working well with him, and they've such similar backgrounds. The two of them, and I'm pleased that Joe's got someone in his corner in Moto2 that's done what John's done, where John's had the success, he's had the horrible lows as he's talked to us about, and I'm so glad that I'm glad that he's here to tell us about those sorts of things, because you know you could have lost him to substance abuse, as he said, and that kind of thing. So it is great and an amazing character really that we've got in our sport.
Yeah, well, the Paddock, we've said this before actually on BT Sport. The Paddock's better for having John Hopkins in it. It's as simple as that, isn't it? Without being cheesy, it is, though, isn't it? It's a better place. He's a proper character.
And Max Biaggi won't be able to sleep at night in his motorhome. I said I'd give away a hashtag, didn't I? So you could hashtag Hopper. There we are.
Right.
Stick that in a retweet of this episode. Whether it's a YouTube tweet or whether it's the
and you win a night with Gav, is that right? You said you'll give full body massage. Go on, show us the swag that you stole from Triumph.
Don't tell UK Triumph, but we've got some Moto2 gear basically.
Yeah, some really nice kit.
Some really really nice kit. There's a cap and there's a t-shirt, that kind of thing. So we'll send that to you if you just help us basically get the message out there for the podcast at the same time, and you get some free gear. What's not to love about it? Right. Have we talked enough about what happened last week? Maybe we save that. Maybe next week.
Yeah, let's save that. Let's save that. I know you're busy today as well, aren't you?
I'm doing loads of interviews.
2 Wheels for Life.
Exactly.
Insta.
So
well done, by the way, Gav, for doing all that.
Oh, it's just rattling through. It's just a busy day. It's just a busy day, but
I
won't be doing anything else. Look how dark it is here compared to where you are. Honestly, I can just see the rain pouring down. So my dog's probably having a terrible, terrible day having to sit inside in this. So. Anyway, right. What we'll do next week, we might have another interview for it, but we'll probably just have a catch-up episode, talk about all the goings on in MotoGP because there's so many.
Yeah. All the gossip.
Mentioned them at the top,
Yeah.
and loads to chat about. Again, we appreciate your support. Please like, subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, leave a review at Apple Podcasts. They all help as well. Leave a review on wherever. You know what I mean. Leave comments. That's what we like. We like to get comments.
Yeah.
Some
Comments
as well. And don't any of them say how Neil got it right on the last lap, because he's already had too many of those. And look at him sat in his throne. He didn't used to have that chair, and he ordered one after Sunday. He rang up and said, IKEA, can I have a chair that looks like a throne, please?
TK Maxx. What?
Yeah. Right. So
right.
We'll be back soon. Cheers, Neil.
Cheers, Gav. Love you, man.
See ya. Bye.
Thank you. Ciao, ciao.